They say it takes a village to raise a child, but what does it take to make a computer system? Well, a vast and complex network of supply chains spanning national borders and oceans. With new market needs and geopolitical pressures, what is the outlook for this interconnected industry? I spoke with Chris Cottorone, the president of TriOrient Investments, to first understand how the AI boom is reshaping Taiwan's tech sector.
Well, Taiwan has had a long experience with the tech industry, so it kind of knows what to do. But with the AI coming in, the artificial intelligence, what it's saying is that these companies, a lot of the big tech leaders in AI, mostly in America, are really putting a lot more pressure on Taiwan to globalize, to come in and move their plans faster and to expand. And that means not just building plants and other facilities around the world and in the United States, but even on talent and also bringing in capital. So where I see a lot of this as an investor, we see these companies are raising a lot of capital now because they need global expansion. And in the last 2-3 years, I visit companies where they're building fabs obviously in Arizona and Japan and Germany all in 1 year. And what it's doing though is it's really bringing Taiwan much closer to the real core of this industry because they're playing such an important role. It's not just a supplier. They're actually really part of the development chain. And that's really important because I think Taiwan's very well suited for that. But we have a lot of small, medium-sized enterprises here, family-run businesses often, and they're also trying to figure out how to, like I say, bring in new talent and bring in new capital to meet that growth.
So you mentioned this pressure that clients are putting on Taiwanese companies to get on with the times. Is it working? Do you think that the pace of these adaptations for Taiwanese companies is sort of adequate for what the clients expect?
I think so. A lot of the companies are really that I meet them every week as an investor. A lot of the companies are, developing new technologies, new applications. They're investing in the right industries that they need to do for their clients and their partners. So they're responding well. I think where the pressure is for most of these companies, what they're feeling again is Taiwan has the capital, they have the technology, they have the partners and the orders. What they need more is the talent. We have a shortage of talent here, a lot of other countries too. But I think what they're seeing with all this global expansion is that they're finding it difficult to go open up those new fabs and those new offices around the world when they're a team of maybe 200 people. And trying to do that on a global basis is where I think where they're feeling mainly the pressure. And the government's trying to respond to that. You're seeing a lot of efforts to try to bring in new talent. But again, one of Taiwan's core attributes is it does things on a low-cost basis. It's not a low-cost industry, but they are managing it very well. And we know the salaries aren't so high there. So trying to bring in that global talent can be difficult. But I think luckily what they're doing is they're such an important part of the supply chain. They know that the companies they're working with are working together on this because these companies got really big ambitions, the ones in the United States, the ones around the world. And they know Taiwan just plays such a critical role. So they're being patient with them in a way, actually, because they know it's a long-term bet. Just like the semiconductor industry Taiwan got into in the 1980s was a long-term bet. And it paid off beautifully for Taiwan.
So another trend that we're seeing is reshuffling of supply chains. What does that mean for the needs of businesses for capital?
Well, again, Taiwanese businesses are no longer just building their products here or in some other offshore entity and then sending it to the United States. With AI, you're talking about a special industry which has security needs. Countries and partners want to know where the supply chain is. They want to be able to have that, supply chain right on their shore. So what does that mean for Taiwan companies? What they're doing with the global supply chain is they're having to expand, like we see with TSMC, for example, having to build fabs in the United States. And remember, TSMC has around 600 suppliers on its supply chain alone. And those companies are going to support TSMC in their new fabs in Arizona, in Germany, and Japan. So what that means for these firms, again, is they're going to have to come up with international talent. They're also being exposed to a lot more investors around the world who say they want to get involved. When I meet a lot of people, because I'm at the American Chamber of Commerce in Taiwan, they come in and they say, we want to get involved as investors. The thing is, Taiwan is needing to reform the financial industry to make that happen. But Taiwan is able to support the capital, and then luckily the government is a great partner for the industry. But in general, we're seeing a wave of expansion amid this global supply chain reshuffling.
So yet another factor that companies have to consider these days is tariffs. A big unknown, but how do you feel they will possibly impact tech trade, both in Taiwan and globally?
In many ways, we're talking about, free trade, but in fact, we're also talking about fair trade. And in many ways, also, Taiwan knows the problems of when it's not fair trade. Taiwan had to deal with hollowing out industry issues in the first part of this century, when we saw a lot of these companies moving over to China, moving away. So they understand it. And I think, companies here in Taiwan, even though I say they have greater pressure for capital, they need to raise more money. They're very, it's an affluent society, it's a very wealthy society. They have the money, I think, to handle the tariffs if they're reasonable. For me, I think where the challenges, of course, will be is if there's a recession, because when you have companies that are basically OEM and ODM, they want the factories to continue to run. So when the demand dries up because of, let's say, the tariff battles, that would be the bigger impact, not the tariffs themselves. But in reality, I think this is very positive for Taiwan, because Taiwan has responded very well to this. They haven't really fought and said, we're not going to pay, we're going to come away and argue about this. They haven't. They've done just the opposite. And because of that, I think that the United States has said these are real partners. And for them, if they're able to withstand those tariffs, they know what America's trying to do. Taiwan actually wants to do it too, because they have the expertise in manufacturing, and they can support the United States in doing that, because remember, the United States is trying to bring back advanced manufacturing back on shore. And Taiwan's a perfect partner for that because of similar societies, similar governments, people-to-people ties. And also remember, the United States and Taiwan, they have a relationship that's gone back decades, and it's not just about trade, it's not just a supplier-vendor relationship, it's about security, it's about so many things. So that's why I say the tariffs are actually, for me, I think it's a smaller issue, although there's actually a bigger potential opportunity for Taiwan.
So we've mentioned AI a few times in this conversation already, and a lot of people focus on the big players, but I want to look beyond those. How do you feel small, medium enterprises and startups are capitalizing on the AI boom right now in Taiwan?
I was in the internet industry in the mid-1990s to the first part of this century, or maybe first 10 years. And to me, it looks a lot like that industry. Whereas, remember, when the internet came out, if you had a really good web page, it didn't matter if you had 10 employees. If it had a good web page and you could do e-commerce, you could outperform some of the bigger companies that had 500 employees.
Right.
And in many ways, Taiwan, with its SME-driven economy, has that real opportunity with AI. Think about it. You have, let's say, 5 people in your company. You're not going to bring in AI so you can lay off 4. You're going to probably use AI to be able to serve 400 companies instead of 200. So in reality, I think Taiwan's going to be one of the first beneficiaries, and I think the SME industry will be actually one of the key beneficiaries of this new trend, because the larger companies, they're going to go through a period of adjustment. Remember, you hire people and you bring on services so you can take care of more people. But if AI is able to do that, you have to rationalize your business to do it. Whereas small, medium-sized enterprises, they'll be able to do it, and they're going to be able to use it for their own kind of long-term goals and development.
So you're with the American Chamber of Commerce as well. What kind of regulatory changes do you think are necessary or would be welcome in Taiwan in order for Taiwanese enterprises to better attract foreign investment and compete, better raise their competitiveness globally?
Taiwan always has to worry about security. So they've put up sometimes, I wouldn't call them barriers, but it's sometimes difficult to do business here, because remember, you've had a lot of family-run businesses, and when you invest in a company like that, you're not just buying part of the company, you're buying part of that family's future. So they're very aware of that, and I think what Taiwan needs to do is communicate that when they talk about how to invest and how to partner with Taiwan. They can do it, because Taiwan has played such an important role here to do that. But what it means is they're going to have to continue to allow foreign investors to come in, new types of investment like private equity, venture capital, digital currencies, these types of industries, these types of financial industries to come in and support the growth. And Taiwan's doing a good job, because one thing they're doing in Kaohsiung, if you've heard, was they have a new asset management, wealth management zone they want to build in Kaohsiung. Now that's great, because they're going to bring in international investors, bring in their offshore money back into Taiwan so they can use it for investment. If they do it more than just asset management, putting in a nice safe account, but they, let's say, foster or promote private equity, for example, then they're putting the money to greater use as a tool, not just a safe kind of investment. And I think that's one of the things that Taiwan needs to do. I think overall, Taiwan's always been kind of competitive, and I don't think they really throw up a lot of barriers, but some of these non-tariff barriers, luckily, we've seen in just the last few weeks alone, they're willing to think about and revise. And we're doing that at AmCham when we talk to them, because one of the key features of AmCham is advocacy. So we meet regularly with the regulators here, whether it's the Financial Supervisory Commission, the Ministry of Finance, and National Development Council. And they're very open-minded about it. I think what they want to do is they want to always be a good partner. And in many ways, I think that's why Taiwan has been, I think, doing well in terms of being able to communicate this with the Trump administration in the United States.
Do you feel that there are certain advantages here that maybe should be better communicated to facilitate this kind of conversations and then later cooperation between Taiwanese companies and foreign venture capital or private equity?
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about, let's say Taiwan's onerous tax rates, right? Wealthy get taxed pretty high here. But we all know that living in Taiwan and working in Taiwan has some really big advantages. It's a very safe society. The people are great. The lifestyle is great. It's a convenient. You have really a lot of things to do here. You and I have been here for many years.
Exactly. We can attest to that.
and the thing is, that's a real advantage. The educational system is excellent. And also too, like I said, the tech industries. I was telling people that if you're a tech investor, there's really two main markets you have to be involved in: NASDAQ in the United States and Silicon Valley, and also Taiwan, because Taiwan has over 2,000 companies on the stock exchange here, and most of them are high-tech companies, although there's a lot of other industries. So it's a very diversified market too. It's not just about chips, it's about sneakers, bicycles, textiles, biotechnology. We invest in many different industries here. We're diversified. Taiwan has a lot of diversification, and that's why I say there's a lot of advantages to doing business here, and hopefully with these tensions, with the trade tensions, what we're seeing now is that Taiwan can communicate that and discuss it, one-on-one with Washington at a much higher level. It's not just about a trade agreement, although we need those trade agreements, bilateral trade agreements, we need the double taxation agreement, but there's more now. And it's more meaningful because Taiwan can actually talk about the real value in here.
Well, and I can't have an investor like yourself on the show and not ask, what are you keeping your eye on going forward in the next few years? Which sectors of the tech industry are the most likely to grow and show opportunities?
Well, Taiwan, like I just mentioned, Taiwan's beauty is that it's got a lot of different diversified industries. Remember, it's not just about chips, then you've got the whole supply chain, you've got the servers, you've got the PCB industry, you've got the connectors, you've got the power management supply. They've got all these different supply chains. We're looking at that, of course, right? But then we've tried to do diversification, and we think about who's going to benefit, who's going to be hurt less from the AI. One thing would be, of course, is biotechnology. Imagine you're a cancer researcher. Without AI, maybe you can tackle 3 diseases in 1 year, but now you can do maybe 5, maybe you can do 10. Okay, so biotechnology, I think, will be on the front list of companies and industries that will benefit from AI. Another one, and Taiwan can excel here too, is talk about food industry, right? Remember, computers will do a lot. AI, robots will do a lot. They'll be able to replace the manpower that's not there in the field. But what they can't do is they can't taste and they can't digest. And Taiwan has a food culture. It understands the importance of food. Taiwan's great thing, and part of the economy, was the agriculture industry. So they understand the quality of the food, they understand the distribution of it. So they'll be able to use AI to empower those companies to make AI even better for that industry. And like I said, the other one will be financial services consulting, where Taiwan will be able to do it maybe in multiple languages. They'll be able to empower their financial industry and the wealth they have here to do more than just kind of sit in a bank account. And I think AI will allow them to do that. So you make these the array of small, medium-sized enterprises in these industries become much more powerful.
Well, and finally, has anything particularly caught your eye today at COMPUTEX and InnoVEX?
Well, I think the word empowerment is coming out a lot. I mean, people are seeing that there's empowerment that's being created by AI. There's no doubt about that. Remember, in the field of investment, it's a lot about divergence, not convergence. As my founder of our company told me once, if everybody stands on one side of the boat tips over. So you want to look at diverse views. If somebody's saying buy this stock, you want somebody to say, what's the problem with this stock? What I think is, remember, AI can present a lot of opportunities as well as challenges. This is the first technology. It's not like a PC, it's not like a smartphone, where that is just like peripheral to help people. This can actually replace people, or it can empower them. And I think this year, what I see mostly is from a lot of these companies, they get that. And they're saying, okay, who's going to lead that next charge? Who's going to lead this industry? And as we saw from the president of Taiwan, he's been saying recently, we're talking about democratic supply chains, because AI will have to be as much about people as it is about technology. And Taiwan is well suited to that as a society of people who empower themselves to empower the country and the government. So that's why I say it's a critical partner for the United States. It's a critical partner for many countries around the world, because it's not just supplying the picks and shovels, it's supplying the oil that will be driving the AI industry for decades.
So besides being involved with the American Chamber of Commerce, there's also a new Italian Chamber of Commerce that you're also a part of. Like, what was the idea behind that, and what kind of exchanges do you hope to see between Taiwan and Italy?
Well, I'm an American of Italian ancestry, and my grandparents were born there and then moved to the United States. So they invited me to be part of the newly founded Italian Chamber of Commerce in Taipei. And the key is that there's a lot of similarities between the Italian economy and the Taiwan economy. You have a lot of small, medium-sized businesses in Italy, family-run businesses, right? They understand, actually, they're one of the bigger exporters of the European economy in terms of their economy. They focus on exports, just like Taiwan. And engineering becomes very important for them. They also have a lot of factories there too. And what they hope to do, and I think this is why they're behind trying to help the creation of this new Chamber of Commerce, is because they see the real partnerships that can be created there. Taiwan has the technology, the digitalization in many ways, that can empower their small, medium-sized family-run businesses to be even more effective and make sure that their global brands that are very famous, the Versace's, the Ferraris, these companies, they'll be able to work on a global basis with a real partner that can help them move into that new age of technology and AI. So they've been very supportive. I think the Italian government and the Italian business community and the Taiwan business community that's doing business there has been very supportive. We just held our first AGM last week, and we're getting more members. And I think the big thing right now is that these are real economies that can work together. And in many ways, I look at the United States, Taiwan, Italy, three great cultures, three important societies that are going to be able to work together, because it's not just one or the other. You can have a lot of partners. You can never have too many friends. You can never have too much money or too many friends. And I think Taiwan realizes that, so that's why they're also supporting it very well as well.
Well, exciting opportunities and exciting times ahead. Thank you very much, Chris Cottorone from TriOrient Investments, the American Chamber of Commerce, and the new Italian Chamber of Commerce in Taiwan.